Gonky, tell us about the Marines and their production issues, because I know you love talking about this because you like to bully the F-35.
Actually, I don't. It pains me anytime I see our forces struggling with stuff. You know why, Mover? Because we have been on the receiving end of that. And like nothing is worse than being in a flying squadron where you cannot fly. And in this case, it may be because of the airplanes are being produced at a quality standard that is not acceptable. So this is an article that I actually just got like right before the show. The Mover sent me VMFA 311.
Sent me.
Yeah, because he knows I'll talk about Fat Amy, right?
Yeah.
The Tomcats, right? Or the Tomcatters or whatever.
Tomcats.
Tomcats, that's right.
Where do you see Tomcats?
No, that's the name of
oh, gotcha.
That's their yeah. What is it? Is
mascot.
It Tomcats or Tom? Yeah, their squadron mascot, whatever. Anyways, yeah, previously they flew Harriers, they were deactivated Tomcats, and they were redesignated as an F-35C unit in 2023, and they were safe for flight. But their commander, Lieutenant Colonel Fisher, sent out a memo saying, "Hey, these airplanes that are being delivered to us, because they're brand new airplanes, are substandard. So they're finding all kinds of issues with the assembly." And basically, it's required 700 hours of work to fix, and they've wasted 170,000 pounds of fuel fixing these things. So, you know, parts, tools, finding things in the fuel tanks, all kinds of stuff. So he's basically, I don't say whistleblower, but he's letting his command know, hey, you're giving me airplanes here I can't use. I can't train. We can't train maintenance. We can't train flying. You cannot be a safe and effective warfighting unit, which VMFA 311 is trying to be, when your primary weapon is substandard, which to me is kind of crazy. You know, they're like, well, maybe it's just a bad batch, but they've built 1,000 roughly F-35s. I don't know how many of the Marine version they've built off the top of my head, but you know, with the spotlight on crappy quality has been on Boeing.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the first little look at, hey, guess what? Over here at the other US aviation giant, Lockmart, they are also having major issues. Now, you know, to plug Boeing, when I was a Hornet IP, we were getting brand new Super Hornets there at the RAG. And those airplanes were like a Swiss watch. I mean, they were perfect. You were going flying if you got assigned one of those jets. So I don't know, Mover. You know, I like to say like these things kind of happen, but this is not just one airplane he's talking about. It's spread out. Now he's a squadron of airplanes, right? So I'm pretty sure the Marines have about the same number of jets per squadron as the Navy, because they're kind of like us. But I mean, what do you think, man? What's going on?
The first thing I thought of when they're talking about like tools being left in places and all that is the depot, because when I used to do depot runs, that was always the big concern, and people would talk about that. They'd always warn you, like, don't trust a jet coming out of depot, because you would think, right? You'd think, oh, it's going to depot, it's going to be like you talked about, brand new, ready to fly. But the focus is not on all the minor parts. It's on whatever heavy maintenance that they just did. So that part will be great. But sometimes you'd have, you know, rags left in places, and, you know, tools and stuff wouldn't work. I mean, my INS failed, you know, leaving the depot, because, you know, that's just some stuff that was working is now not, because it's been sitting. So that's what it made me think of. I was like, well, okay, I've seen this before. It's not unusual to have that kind of stuff. I have never flown a brand new jet like you, so I don't know, you know, what it's like, because, you know, the F-16s I flew were all old. They were old back when I flew them, and they're older now. So I am surprised by it, because typically, you know, coming out of the factory, it is good. But the first thing I thought of was the 787 and the 737. Specifically the 787, the whistleblower that they're talking about, you know, jumping on the pieces to get them to line up, and and all that stuff. So it is interesting to me, and scary, because that jet has been plagued with so many problems production wise in general, right? If you've had trouble producing them and then you get to a situation where they finally get there and they're still useless to you, I mean, that's a problem. I don't know, I don't know what the fix is, other than I think we've allowed these larger companies like Boeing and Lockheed, maybe they need more oversight. Maybe a lack of oversight is the problem. I don't know what Lockheed's is. I know Boeing, the government has come in and said, you are now going to have oversight because we were letting you do too much stuff by yourself. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Lockheed Martin and Boeing over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years have transitioned more towards profit focused.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's starting to really show. In 2011, when I did the St. Louis Air Show, I operated out of Lambert there, where they build the Super Hornet. My jet broke, so I spent actually 2 weeks there. So every day I was hanging out with the men and women who were building brand new Super Hornets, and I watched a couple do their very first flight, and those jets came back. And I remember the guy, I cannot remember it. He's long retired now, but he's like, hey man, that jet, that's his very first flight off the assembly lines. How many squawks do you think it came back with? I was like, I don't know, 10. He's like, 0. And I thought, wow, that's pretty awesome. And he said they got it down to a science, and they haven't built 1,000 Hornets.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think that, because there is a lot of oversight, right? I mean, look at the acceptance jobs that have been posted. We've talked about, you and I have talked about them, the DCMA, acceptance gigs, where there's a military pilot that accepts these aircraft. And without a doubt, even on the Boeing side, I think the workers, the men and women that actually turn wrenches on these aircraft, I think they have pride in what they do. Like, I don't think anybody's out there like, I don't care what happens. Like, I think there is pride and professionalism and a sense of, they want to see America win, and they want these aircraft to be as good as possible. I don't know where the disconnect is that would allow something like this to happen. But what I do think would probably be wise is for the Marine Corps to do an investigation and get to the bottom of it, and then report it to Congress and go, here you go. Here's the information. We need to figure this out, and we need to hold people accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree a little bit. I mean, there was that undercover tape about the Boeing employees, asking, would you fly on this thing? And they're like, no, I wouldn't. And, when asked why, it was, hey, things have been going downhill here. So, and I understand what you're saying, Mover. Like, I 100% agree. Those people have pride in what they do. But when I say things have changed over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, or maybe even longer, what handcuffs are those engineers and workers working under? Like, what?
Oh yeah,
what's the culture,
for sure. Yeah, I'm saying the individual, Rosie the Riveter here,
right,
is not going out there going, well, I don't care what happens to the rest. And that's why I said it needs to be, because yes, you will have whistleblowers, but they do so at great risk to themselves. Sometimes great risk to themselves, but.
Right.
And that is where it's the government accountability. Like, they have to come in and go, we take this on as the customer, and we want answers, and we will fix this because we are the customer and we want answers. You can't rely on the floor worker to fix institutional problem, if one exists.
Right.
If what you're saying is correct, if it's an institutional problem, then it doesn't matter how much pride, how little pride, there's something else going on. And we already know that exists at Boeing because of the merger with McDonnell Douglas. All that stuff led to where they're at today. We know that it's been, that horse is dead. Lockheed's surprising, and it's, I hope that it is just a one-off, and what they have seen is something that they go, okay, yeah, we screwed up on this part. This is what was happening. Mea culpa. Let's fix it going forward. And it's not something institutional like you've seen with Boeing.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the fact that in the Marines case, they put all their eggs in the F-35 basket, right? So I mean, you want the airplane to be right when it comes out of the factory, because
Yeah.
heaven forbid you lose one or two or
Well,
kill
and that's
somebody,
exactly
right?
right.
I
I
mean,
mean, all of these, except for with the exception of Boeing and the MCAS stuff, we have been so lucky
oh yeah,
from a perspective of we have discovered these things and drawn attention to them, and we're talking about them as we're mad at a company versus somebody died. You
right,
know, it's one thing to go, oh yeah, they suck, we need to fix this, versus somebody actually died because an F-35 crashed because there was
right.
a wrench, somewhere it should be. Have we lost aircraft potentially because things were not done right?
Yep.
Yes, but luckily it has not been fatal to my knowledge. I mean, I may be misremembering or not remembering a specific incident, or maybe it hasn't been attributed to that yet. But I do think when you have, one, okay, two, maybe it's a fluke, but if it becomes a trend item, then that's when higher headquarters needs to step in and go, okay, let's see what's the problem here. How do we fix this?
Yeah, they'll fix it. I mean, it's too high profile of a weapon
Yeah.
to not.
And good on the commander for standing up for his people.
Yeah,
That's what the
100%.
leadership you need.
Yeah, 100%.